Feet are worshipped in India, but they are the most abused and neglected part of the body. I think all of you will agree with me that we give a lot of importance to the face rather than to the legs. We see at least 4 to 5 times our face, but hardly have a look at our feet, right? So, if we see the same scenario in the case of a diabetic patient, if he has neuropathy, if he has undergone neuropathy and he develops an injury, it will go unnoticed and probably he will come to the doctor when his injury has developed into major problems or probably leading to amputation. So we have to make aware of our patient that his feet are insensate and he has to take care of his feet so that most of the problems can be solved there and there itself. So the food problems, they affect 15 to 25% of all diabetic patients. They account for 25 to 50% of all hospitalizations in them. Every 30 seconds, someone somewhere loses a leg because of diabetes every day. In our country, roughly along over 2 lakhs lower limbs are lost due to diabetes annually. And you won't believe 85% of these amputations are preventable with early diagnosis and treatment. So we come to the rule of 15. This is a tragic rule in which 15% of the diabetics will develop foot ulcer in their lifetime. 15% of this will develop osteomyelitis, and 15% of the foot ulcers will lead to an amputation. In the tragic rule of 50, if you see 50% of amputations are transfemoral or at transtibial level, that is the higher level. And 50% of these patients undergo a second amputation in 5 years. 50% of this patient may die in 5 years. So you see, it's a very high mortality. So let's come to the pathogenesis of the diabetic foot. Basically, it's a multifactorial, complex, and still poorly understood. It comprises of neuropathy, vasculopathy, immune dysfunction, restricted joint mobility, diabetic osteoarthropathy, infection, and biofilm formation. All these, because of prolonged hyperglycemia, contributes to all the above factors. So you have to have your blood sugar levels at a very normal range. You have to keep them under control. So we'll come one by one. Diabetic neuropathy. This affects the sensory, motor, and the autonomic fibers. In the sensory neuropathy, the deep sensory perception is reduced, resulting in loss of protective reflexes against any physical injury. And it usually manifests like a SOX-like distribution. In a motor neuropathy, there is denervation and atrophy of small foot muscles, leading to biomechanical changes in the foot, causing increased pressure on the bony prominences. Whereas in an autonomic neuropathy, there is vasodilatation and absent swelling. Thus, you will see most of the patient, they may have warm, dry, scaly feet. And this predisposes to fissure formation and later to ulcer. Now, in this slide, you will see because of the sensory nerve damage that develops in a diabetic patient, he is not able to perceive the pin that has pinched on his foot. We had to remove this pin when the patient came to us. On the right hand side of the slide, this is a young man. He went to a religious pilgrim. We have to go barefooted if we have to go to any religious places. And in that hot summer weather of 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, because of his sensory loss, he had all these blisters and beds, and we had to treat him. Now, because of the motor nerve damage, in the motor nerve damage, the small muscles of the foot are atrophied. So they develop as claw toes, hammer toes, crossover toes, or bun unions. I'm sure you must have seen in most of the patients. In my clinic, we usually tell our patients to remove their shoes, socks, and examine their feet and look for all these signs. Now, calluses. If you see, this patient had multiple calluses. because of the bony prominence. The patient is not able to perceive. So we had to do the callus shaving. There is a difference between callus and cone formation. In callus, you have to shave it. In the cone, you can excise the cone. If you see in the cone on the lateral side, there is pain, whereas callus, it is painless. Sometimes an infected ulcer is embedded in the callus, but it is usually seen in the bony prominences. Yeah. Now, the third part, that is the autonomic nerve damage. Here, because of vasodilatation and dry scaly cells, there are a lot of scales and dryness. A simple local application of any moisturizer will help in prevention of further damage to the feet. Now, the second part is diabetic vasculopathy. In diabetes, there is macro and microangiopathy. In macroangiopathy, there is atherosclerosis of the large arteries. In microangiopathy, there is increased thickness of the basement membrane, the endothelial proliferation, the capillary damage, the medial wall calcification. Because of this, there is a decreased local blood flow. So there is a poor antibiotic penetration leading to poor wound healing. And microangiopathy is a very unique to diabetes, if you can see. The feet out there, there is very less blood supply out there because of this vasculopathy. Now, if we come to the microbiology of the diabetic foot, it is polymicrobial. You have to address to the aerobes, gram positive, gram negative, anaerobes, and fungal infection. So you have to give medication all accordingly. Charcot foot or Charcot arthropathy. This is a devastating, limb-threatening, but sometimes preventable complication of diabetes. With peripheral neuropathy, it affects almost 8 to 29% of all diabetic patients. It is a non-infectious progressive condition which involves either a single or a multiple joint. It is characterized by joint dislocation, pathological fractures, and severe destruction of the foot architecture. It is slightly different from the cellulitis picture that you see in your patients who come to you. The Charcot foot is swollen, red, and painless in nature. If you raise the foot, the swelling decreases. Whereas in cellulitis, there is no decrease in swelling. It responds to the antibiotic treatment and it is infectious. So you will have your ESR and CRP levels going high. As compared to Charcot's, these investigations are within normal limits. So you have to distinguish between the two. Now we'll come to the clinical examination of the diabetic foot. History, of course, is very important. After that, the physical examination, you have to see this shape, size, color of the foot, look for the callosity, corns, even the nails. All this have to be taken into account. Then we go on to the neurological assessment. You have to identify the loss of protective sensation that is because of neuropathy. And these are the various things that we do: the 10-gram monofilament, the tuning fork, the vibration test, pinprick test, the hot and cold perception test, joint position, and ankle reflexes. Usually at our clinic, we start with a 10-gram monofilament test. It is a monofilament which is exerted on the points, on the 10 points, one on the dorsum and the rest on the plantar aspect of the foot. You give a slight pressure, making the monofilament into a C-shaped, so that you're exerting a 10-gram pressure on the feet. If the person can perceive this, is well and good. If he cannot perceive more than 4 to 5 points, then the person has neuropathy. Similarly, there is a machine, biothessiometer, or the vibration perception test machine, in which again you have to look in for all these points with the help of the biothessiometer. It is a vibration test, just like a electric vibrator, a tuning fork type. So in this, the voltage is increased slowly. Anything ranging from 0 to 25 volts is normal, and 26 to 50 volts and above is abnormal. So that is all of the neurological assessment. Now we come to the vascular assessment. Early non-invasive vascular evaluation is very important, which helps in identifying the patients with poor ulcer healing and high risk of amputation. To prevent the delay, you have to do all this. So we have a handheld Doppler to know the ABI index, that is the ankle brachial index. Then you have the toe pressure measurement, the Doppler ultrasound, the transcutaneous oxygen tension, that is PCO2, and lastly the invasive peripheral arterial angiography. Now, with the help of the handheld Doppler, we are able to find out the dorsalis pedis artery and the posterior tibial artery. They're all palpable in a normal individual on the feet. So, and with the help of this Doppler, you're able to find out what kind of a phase it is. Either it is a monophasic, triphasic, or biphasic. Triphasic flow is the normal flow. So, ankle brachial index. This is done to know the vascular component of the diabetic foot. This is an index in which the highest systolic pressure of the two pedal arteries, that is the dorsalis pedis and posterior tibial, that is divided by the brachial systolic pressure in the arm. So a ratio of 0.9 to 1.3 is normal, 0.4 to 0.9 is mild to moderate disease, and anything 0 to 0.4 is a severe disease. If you have more than 1.3, then it shows that the vessels are calcified. Now, the foot pressure assessment can also be done with the help of a Harris mat or a foot scanner. A foot scanner tells us where the pressure points are more, so that we can help the patient in giving proper footwears and insoles and preventing further damage to the feet, like ulcer formation or something like that. Now, we come to the management of the diabetic foot. For better management, the diabetic foot is divided into 6 stages. Stage 1 is a normal foot. Stage 2 is the high risk foot. Stage 3 is the ulcerated foot. Stage 4 is the infected foot. Stage 5 is the necrotic. And stage 6 is the unsalvageable foot. All these stages can be helped with all these aspects of patient management: the mechanical, the metabolic, the wound, the microbiological, vascular management, and lastly the education. So the diabetic foot ulcer management, we'll talk about this now. In this, the mechanical control is done by external offloading or internal offloading. External offloading with the help of total contact cast, air cast, Walker, AFO, and felt pads. Internal offloading is done with the help of surgeries. These surgeries are curative or protective surgeries like tenotomies, Keller's arthroplasty, gastrosoleus resection, big names, but these are all protective surgeries that is done by the surgeon. Then we come to the wound control. Wound control, there is debridement. The debridement is of various types, whether it is a sharp surgical, autolytic, enzymatic, mechanical, and biosurgical. Of this, the sharp surgical is the gold standard of debridement. Then along with the debridement, you have to do the dressings also. So we have various dressing materials like foams, hydrocolloids. We even have advanced wound healing products like skin substitutes, growth factors, extracellular matrix proteins, and supplementary wound techniques are also there. I'm sure you all must have heard about negative pressure wound healing or the VAC treatment. Yeah. So all these come into the wound healing techniques. Along with that, topical therapy like cleansing agents are also used. We have microbiological control with your oral and systemic antibiotics. And the vascular control is also very important. In that, we do investigations like the Doppler, the CT angiography, the digital subtraction angiography. We rule that out. We see that either the patient has to undergo an angioplasty, it is a peripheral angioplasty, or the bypass surgery of the feet. Then we come to the metabolic control, which is also equal importance. We have to manage their glucose, their lipids, their kidneys, their proteins intake, the nutritional balance. All this needs to be done. And lastly, but not the least, the educational control. You have to explain the patient how to take care of his feet, how to wear proper footwears, how to prevent recurrence. If a patient has had a foot ulcer, he has been healed, he has to know that he should not recur or come and visit the doctor as soon as possible. So these are a few cases that I'm going to share with you, which we have done together. These are the ulcers. Basically, most of the diabetic foot ulcers, 33% of them are the toe ulcers. There are two types, the subungual, that is on the tip of the toe, and the IP joint ulcer, that is the interphalangeal joint ulcer. This patient, if you can see in the slide, had an ulcer at the tip of his toe. So we had done a tenotomy out there. It's a small procedure. You can see the suture out there. Before even removing the sutures, within 7 to 8 days, his ulcer started healing. So that was the good stuff. Until now, almost a year is done. The person has not developed any ulcers at the toe. Now, this is the second type of an ulcer which can be seen at the interphalangeal joint. In this, we had done a surgical or an internal offloading by a protective or a curative surgery known as Keller's arthroplasty. Put in a drain, you can see the ulcer had healed totally. The patient who visited after 8 to 10 months, there was no recurrence of the ulcer. What we exactly do, if you can appreciate in this X-ray slide, is that we cut off the bone, that is the proximal head of the metatarsal bone is chopped off, so giving a permanent cure. So there is no recurrence of the ulcer formation out there. This is the second patient in which who had an ulcer at the MTP joint, that is the metatarsal phalangeal joint. You can see he has a very deformed foot. In the X-ray, if you can see this, I'm moving the cursor. Is everybody able to see? They're all crooked feet, all crooked bones are out there. Very disformed figure it was. So with the help of surgery, we had done this. You can see a normal looking foot and little less deformed foot. We had also done a TA lengthening out here to strengthen out his tendon out there. This person was able to walk and he's very, very much happy now about this. Now, this is another case in which you have osteomyelitis, that is the infection of the bone. It is at the first MTP joint. If you can see over here, this is the first MTP joint. Let me tell you, friends, the foot is a very complex structure. It has 26 bones, various ligaments, tendons, muscle, intrinsic and extrinsic muscle, and it bears your weight. So you can understand this little anatomy out here. So what we did was heal the ulcer within few weeks. We had to chop up all the proximal out here. If you can see the gap out here, so that the ulcer was completely healed. If you've seen the earlier ulcer, and now out here it's now much better now. Yeah, this case, this patient had a very, very bad limb. It was a very infected abscess and a little gangrenous changes on his last toe. If you can see in this slide, a lot of slough formation. So with good debridement and vac dressing, multiple vac dressing, we were able to remove all the slough. You can see the exposed tendons out here. Then after that few days, we had done the skin grafting and we could give him a proper walkable foot. Yeah. Now, this case is a very interesting case. Sorry, I need to go back. Yeah. This patient had come from all the way from Gujarat. He had visited multiple doctors. He had a very small ulcer on his dorsum of his foot. But then the doctor tried to keep on doing debridement over and over again, and he developed a big ulcer out there, which involved his calcaneum bone also. We had to do a little debridement, and we had to do multiple vac treatment. Irrigation vac was applied over here, where you can see good after a healthy, good granulation tissue. we were able to put a skin graft and give him a walkable feet. This patient was an elderly, almost 80 years old, with an ejection fraction of 20%. And he was very khakadu patient. He had everything, cardiac problem, renal problem, you name it, and he had it. But we were able to save his limb. So these are the few cases, friends. That's what I would like to tell all of you. All these problems are treatable, preventable if the patient comes to you early. So right up from tomorrow, you have to see your patient. Look, at least take a little time to just look at their feet. If there is any callosity, corns, any deformity, you can quickly, guide them how to take care of their feet as they do their face. Thank you so very much. Yes, ma'am. Any questions?
You can post your questions or you can unmute and then directly ask the questions.
Namaskar, ma'am. So, what are you?
Yeah. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for presenting very good cases.
Thank you.
Madam, how the offloading is important and how to convince the people?
Offloading is very important. See, any wound, if you offload it, means you don't give pressure to that wound. It's going to heal faster. So we
Right.
have offloading shoes where either if the wound is on the anterior aspect, you have anterior wedges. If it's at the back, that is the heel ulcer, you have the posterior wedge shoes. You have to explain to them. You have to give at least 5 to 10 minutes to your patient and explain to them how it is done and how it is going to help you. I know initially it is difficult for the patient. He is not convinced very fast. But believe me, as he sees the results, of the other patient, he quickly he understands it and he buys the thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Ma'am, biofilm removal, how can be done, by the way?
This is a very good question you have asked. It's more on the surgical. See, there's a thin layer of biofilm. If you see in your wounds, you have to scrap the biofilm. Every time the patient comes to you, this biofilm has to be removed. There are creams available for removal of the biofilm. The JB Chemical Pharmaceutical, the other division, they have
Yes.
this. So
Yeah.
that is also useful. That is to be done. So then it is, see, basically it's not always dressings. You have to do the dressings, have the dressing materials. All this along helps in healing of the ulcers.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Ma'am, vacuums are important for the healing purpose. Are they really benefited?
Yeah, for the wound healing, yes, definitely it helps.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think there are no questions.
Okay.
So we can end up with the meeting. My sincerely thanks all the doctors who have attended this presentation, and a special thanks to Dr. Medhavar for
Thank you.
putting some good light on this particular topic of diabetic foot management. Uh, and from on behalf of JB Chemicals, we all salute all the doctors who are treating the patients of COVID or non-COVID in such difficult times. Please take care of yourself and take care of your families too. Thank you very much, doctor.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.